So what is differentiated instruction? Again, just to reiterate what Tomlinson says, differentiated instruction is basically doing what's fair for students. Focus on that word, what's fair for students. It means creating multiple paths so that students with different abilities, interests, and learning needs experience equally appropriate ways to learn. Powerful stuff. Yes. What's fair is not equal. Write that down. What's fair is not equal. And I think if you start to internalize that conceptually, if you start to integrate that into your philosophy and your way of thinking, I think you're almost there. So, in designing this lessons for Lucas and working with Miss Lisa, we also had to understand that Lucas, there might be a different level of readiness for Lucas when compared to his peers. We also had to look at how well he would socialize. But believe me, Lucas was a social butterfly. And everything that he did, he attracted a lot of positive energy from his friends, from teachers, and everybody just loved him. So that was the part that we found very interesting. With no behavioral concerns, Lucas would be able to get the work done when he put his mind. He just needed structure. He needed structure. Okay, that was a major part of the tiering, which I will talk about. We also look at his interest inventory. We also notice that he loved horses. He loved being in the outdoors. So we had to think about bringing horses, the theme of horses, into the content so that he could find benefits. So every book we found out there was all about horses. Okay. We also looked at his cognitive needs. Also, you need to know Lucas' IQ was around 72, very low. So we had to do some rethinking about that IQ score. We had to reshape and redesign our instructional materials. We had to reshape, redesign our style of teaching. Okay? So just to put this in perspective again, when we start to teach, we need to consider three very important things, and this is the heart and soul of tiering. That is, number one, the content. You need to understand what are the essential things. What are we going to get to common understanding? The next question you have to ask yourself on the content is, when your students leave at the end of the lesson, what will everybody take? You also need to focus on the process. Maybe Lucas needs more hands-on activities. Maybe he needs a little more manipulatives. Maybe he might need a guide by the side. He might need even a teacher assistant to prompt him, to get him to do the work. So we had to design an instructional way, but the beautiful part about it, Lucas was being grouped with his peers, and he loved that. And his peers loved him, and they rallied around Lucas, and he formed bonds and friendships just like that. Lucas, 5th grader. The product, we needed something tangible, something that we could assess, so that we could give Lucas a grade. But we had to grade Lucas according to his ability, not the ability of the rest of the class. See how beautiful this is in tiering? And you can do this. There's no federal law out there that says you cannot. Really, you can. So the product had to be a product we used was a portfolio. Lucas accumulated artifacts in a portfolio that we graded according to a rubric. He accumulated these artifacts and self-selected the best ones that he felt he was very proud of in language arts. So we had a language arts portfolio. We started here first, and then we started to move into math. We started moving to social studies next, and we got brave and braver because we had to create a success story first in one class, and pretty soon, within a year, he was fully included in every one of his classes, okay, based on this model. So this stuff that I'm teaching you today was stuff that I had to sit down with Miss Lisa Hawkins, and I talked to her about the content, the process, and the product for Lucas. And she also understood that her resource materials had to be varied in different reading abilities. For example, Lucas could not decode words. He was able to decode pictures and make phonetic phonemic sounds. And that was beautiful. He had a sound that he would match up with a symbol or a picture. Lucas also had audio-video recordings. We also had highlighted vocabulary so he could cue in to some of the vocabulary words that we're working on a sight word list. Charts, models, interest center. Interest center for Lucas was all about horses, and he would just gravitate to it. So we made once a center just for him. Okay? We had different types of manipulatives, different resources came out of the special education budget. We also had peers and adult mentors for Lucas. Yes, after school we had a mentor for Lucas to reinforce reading skills, to reinforce decoding, spelling. We also had a buddy system where Lucas would pair up with a buddy in class and they would work together, regular ed and Lucas being in special ed. But they worked collaboratively and Lucas really enjoyed the company. The next piece in the differentiating process, we had to go and explore how do we tier these activities. So this required some planning and thinking, and of course the regular ed teacher, Miss Lisa, was very cooperative and she loved working collaboratively. So we came up together, and that's where the special ed teacher, myself, we would get together and do a consultation about what exactly we're going to do for Lucas on a weekly basis. Okay, and here are some more ideas for you, showing what is to know and being able to do what needs to be done is most important. Okay. Next pieces of information you need to know. Now we've come to the heart and soul of what tiered instruction is. Here's what it is, folks. When you tier an activity or you tier your lesson, what you're doing, write this down, you are changing the level of complexity. Yes, that's beautiful. You're changing the level of complexity, and you are doing that in concert with the developmental needs of Lucas involved in the process. It's not teaching Lucas where the teacher is at, but it is teaching Lucas at where Lucas is at. The next piece we had to do in helping Lucas, we did three things. Number one, we created a choice board for Lucas. Number two, we also tiered activities for Lucas. And also I want you to know, this tiering was not only focused on Lucas, but it was for the entire class. There were students in there who were at-risk students, who were not in special education. There were students in there who were high flyers, your advanced educational placement students, who were also known as gifted students. There were students in there who were low functioning, and you also had students who were in the average range. We also had students in there who were learning disabled. So